Hello all, and welcome to Shatter Our Souls with Novarga. Today we are tackling the Scrap Factory in Dead Charge, and I want to make a couple of apologies first and foremost. Number one, I misunderstood information that was given to me prior by Basement Dweller Games as a general statement. First and foremost, Basement Dweller is working on getting the game put on Steam. It is currently available on the Switch, but due to porting problems has come across a couple minor issues. Secondly, this game is, or has been, going fairly well, but there are a couple minor concerns that I need to voice. Number one, if you are photosensitive, I apologize, the second portion of this mission, which begins in approximately 2 minutes, I am going to have to say has a lot of motion blur, at least tied to it from when I was playing with the 4K TV attached to my Switch. Knowing this, you've been warned, and we'll continue on. The Scrap Factory is a region of Dead Charge that I honestly think has a lot of detail that tells a lot more of a story than I think many of the other locations have. Starting with those little bronze characters on all fours. They are what look to be a older model of the Light robot series, or Light Mark 1s if you will. They have a single eyeball, which could theoretically push for more animalistic tendencies or less intelligent movement. This is me putting information out there that might not be supported by the developer. This is just my own thought. And what I like about these creatures, these entities, they are something to be noted as being different or unique, but I don't necessarily think that they are too unique compared to what I would ordinarily consider to be a proper entity. I also believe that if they are a Light Mark 1, that generally speaking they are programmed in a way that is specifically stating of do the thing, go in this direction, off you go, have fun, right? So, who knows? Maybe I'm overthinking things. I have a tendency to do that. What I don't have a tendency to overthink is the fact that Mission 1 was completed on my first attempt. Now, from a difficulty standpoint, if it were me to say, hey, I think that each mission should have a certain outcome, the first thing I have to say is this. If you were starting anywhere, start with Scrap Factory Round 1, followed by the Neon Nightlife Round 1. Those two levels combined are significantly easier than the first level of Hydraulic Factory, which is the one I started with. The reason I think that those two are easier actually has to tie more directly to how the two of them are as far as gameplay. While Scrap Factory and Neon Nightlife are very short to the point, they showcase exactly where I just found 2 coins in 1 second. Fantastic. These two levels are very tied together. They are more about teaching the basics. Hydraulic Highway, by my opinion, and my opinion only, is significantly harder because of the demands of how best to approach each level. Generally speaking, I ended up picking a series of pathways through Hydraulic Highway that I personally think were easiest, and also that I wanted to find all of the coins. This is an important piece of information. But along with finding each individual coin, my goal was very different with Hydraulic Highway. Wanting to learn the basics, wanting to find all the coins, wanting to understand the entire makeup of every mission. And I stand by I would like to know the makeup of every single mission in this game. The reality is that there are a lot of little nooks and crannies and pathways that have been developed from the ground up to make this game accessible for a speedrunner in ways that I don't think very many modern games are. Cool. So we have some moving platforms, and that's about all I got out of that. What that effectively means to me is that we are in, what do we want to call it? This area is the scrap factory itself, probably playing on the edge of a assembly line. And poof. So, I promise we are getting there. This level is, I think, the hardest of the three. I feel like this is the hardest of the 3 level 2 missions. And partially because it takes a much more hands-off approach, if that makes any, or more hands-on approach, to how fast you're traveling. And by that I mean every time you turn around, the mission is changing your speed, which is impacting the platforming in and of itself. This is an important thing for me as the motion... Oh, there it is. There's the motion blur. The motion of traveling from point A to point B is excessive at times and makes it difficult to gauge whether you're having a good run or a bad run. With Hydraulic Highway, the only speed change situation that you come across is when you're going up those wires. And you have the opportunity to dash on those and fly a little bit faster, but you don't really have 17 dozen different options available to you. As far as my opinion on character as a whole, I believe that Light Mark II is... How do I want to word this? Light Mark II feels a lot like old style Mega Man. And I say that with all the love and care in the world. Does anybody remember, I believe it's Mega Man 7, that has in the end credits, as after defeating Dr. Wily, that Mega Man is fed up with fighting Wily and says with the slowest text scroll of the era, "I am more than just a robot." A robot. You know that's exactly what he's going to say. And to me, that always made sense. Of course, he's more than just a robot. He was a robot designed from the ground up to be a helper in various circumstances. Was intended to be more than the sum of his birth, or rather his creation. And yet, you end up in this situation where he's showing that there's far more to his programming, or to who Mega Man or Rockman was. I don't necessarily think that this game was designed 100% with that in mind, but I will say outright that I do believe that there is an essence of that. The fact of the matter is that the programming system of Light Mark II being fluctuating has me curious about this. Because Light's whole... what do I want to word it as? The system of his self-preservation mechanic being set to low in the intro and then immediately set to absolute maximum just after that suggests to me that there is going to be another opportunity for this to play in, or to come into play. I don't know what that is. I don't know when it will be. But I know that Light Mark II is probably going to have more tied to the character than just the bare basics. That's my conjecture, that's my understanding, and I'm going to stick with it. Anywho, look, by the feel of it, I think we're getting to the end of Scrap Factory Act 2. And I think that's the end of this life. I didn't end up high enough to hit the wall there's a possibility I can do it, but only if the stars align. And they did not. Anywho, so we're gonna finish this off. I think this is the run. And then we're heading into the Scrap Factory Challenge mission. Now, this mission, I like its premise. To me, the premise of Scrap Factory Act 2, having more of a grinding on rails circumstance, allows for what I would consider to be the on-rails style gameplay of like old Mario, of Super Mario World. That's the word, that's the one I'm looking for. But you're still in control. Correction. Let me back up a bit here. Old Super Mario World, those little skull guys that travel from point A to point B that you have to stand on top of, it slows the gameplay to a crawl and makes it so that you as the player have to react to what's going on with the little skull snake guys. But you're always reacting as if it was going faster and or slower than your regular movement speed. I'm noticing that with the grind rails in this specifically, I'm not having to worry as much about that aspect because the grind rails are faster than my regular speed, meaning that forced movement is still fun and fluid, even if it is not, 100% intentional 24/7. So, I do like that aspect about it. And I do think that that was a well thought out mechanic by the developers that created this game. Anywho, that definitely feels like the end of Scrap Factory Act 2. And to be honest, I think I liked it to a degree. There were things that could be improved. As I said, there were some issues with the lighting, specifically, and motion blur. But now we get on to the real challenge of this. Oh, and we're dead. Of this mission. Now, the challenge missions are each small, very self-contained missions. And I love that about these particular missions because it forces you to think outside the box in many circumstances. This one in particular seems to be playing with the idea of the treadmills that showed up in Scrap Factory Act 2. Now, I will be very blunt in my statement that I believe that the Neon Nightlife one should have fit more in with Scrap Factory. But I can also understand that all three of the mechanics of the various challenge missions had to have a mission set aside for them, and this definitely makes a lot of sense for the factory side of things being on a conveyor belt. And there we go. Life number 4 has fallen. Now, if it were me, if I were to try to take the gameplay of this game and try to make a storyline for it, I believe that given the circumstances of Light having effectively saved the world, I'm assuming by the end of the game, and being entirely reliant on a damaged battery or a system that does not help him, my thought is that Light Mark II would go rogue in a future game. At the very least. Not necessarily rogue per se, but in a very similar vein to the a violation of the laws of robotics, rebelling against its creators in order to preserve itself, similar to, I believe the movie is I, Robot. But this is me again making assumptions based on what I think would work well, not necessarily what the creator thinks would work well. So, let me know down in the comments below if you think that Light is just going to continue what he's doing. Do you think that he's going to go rogue? Do you think that there is more to this little 2D platformer created by Basement Dweller Games? Or do you think that it is that I'm overlooking or looking too deep into the mechanics of this and just saying, it's gotta fit somewhere? And with that, if you liked the video, drop a like, leave subscribe, and I'll catch you next week with the finale. Until then, have a good one.